Tarp on the infield behind us. We should start this thing on time. I'd like to say we're going to play 9 today, but let's hopefully get at least 5 in.
Yeah, put the cover on your hat, in your head, but don't put the cover on the field. Yeah, it looks pretty good right now, man. I think we're good to play ball.
And the Reds are in here not scoring a lot of runs. We'll talk more about them here in a second, but let's look at the highlights of the final game of that 4-game Padres series. And things look really good to start the game as Travis Wood was really on his game.
Yeah, yet again, Travis Wood has been rock solid every time he's gone to the mound so far this year. Yesterday he allowed 3 runs. That's the first time all year he's allowed as many as 3 runs in a ball game. 7 2/3 out of Wood in the ball game yesterday, cruising along. Scott Ayrton knocks his ball into the seats, into the teeth of a very tough wind, able to keep that 1 iron below the wind, giving the Cubs a 2-0 lead. And then a story kind of reminiscent of what we saw earlier in the season, just not able to hold those leads.
Yeah, a couple of really great defensive plays, and that's the irony of it. I mean, one of the best you'll see in foul ground by Anthony Rizzo, and then Julio Bourbon maybe topping that right up against the sidewall, but then things kind of unraveled for this team as Yonder Alonso with a little blooper out into right, and the problem was the ball didn't carry enough.
Yeah, tough win, not an easy play. It probably was Barney's ball, but Bourbon called him off. Then the pass ball and that backup slider, not an easy pitch for Castillo to handle, and he kind of jogs after, not realizing that Blanks had hesitated. I don't know if they would have had Blanks or not, but it certainly looked bad. And then the Padres able to add on.
Yeah, 4 runs in that 8th inning. Here's another little dribbler. An infield hit for Chase Headley. That made it 4-2. And the Cubs were unable to come back against Houston Street, the Padres closer, striking out Luis Valbuena. And the Padres are in a split 2-2 in the series. So you look at the line score. Travis Wood again retiring 14 in a row to start his outing. And the good news is the starting pitching continues to be excellent. Carlos Villanueva today, and as long as you get those starts, you're going to keep your team in the game.
Yeah, pitch that well. This is a game of percentages. If you have that many good starts, you're going to win your fair share of games.
All right, we'll talk again more about today's opponent. The Reds with their first off day yesterday since April 11th. Carlos Villanueva went into the 9th in Cincinnati last week. We'll hear from his manager, Dale Swaim, when we come back. this interesting climate here in Chicago. 81 degrees at game time Tuesday. It was 45 yesterday. We may be right around that area. Once again, today is the Reds and Cubs will play Game 4 of this long season series. And speaking of the weather, you just have to understand here in the spring, JD, that you're going to have nice days, bad days, wind blowing in, out, crosswind, and it can all happen within 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, yeah, it was important to have that stretch of nice days, at least, where the Cubs can get on the field a little bit and get their work in, and then you get a cold, rainy day like today, and you got to shut it down.
All right, let's hear from Dale Swaim about the changing weather conditions.
Kind of know it's this time of the year. This is, a good chance these things can happen here, But then, once it, we get past this time, it's the weather's awesome and and it's a really, really cool place to play when that, IB gets out there and the weather starts getting better. So, that's just part of it. It's a long season. We've gotten, a lot of work in lately. So, some days are okay to just be in the cage too when it gets to be a long season. So, but the losing the tough games like yesterday, that's you see what you're made out of. That's definitely because that's that was one of the tougher ones, if not the toughest loss we've had this year, because it was kind of in our control a little bit. Well, hopefully they move on. We've obviously had a couple of these already, and we got into a nice streak and still, yesterday, like I said yesterday, it was unfortunate because it was a really, really great defensive game up till, that pop-up. So, it was for 8 2/3, it was really, really a good baseball game. Just one play. After so many great plays yesterday, it was unfortunate you come up in the short end of that game. It was obviously an unfortunate situation that, he wished he had back, but he held himself accountable and took responsibility for that play. Obviously, what led up to that, we wouldn't even be talking about it if we catch a pop up. So, but those are the things that lead up. We have to make a pitch after we make a mistake like that. That's one thing we haven't been able to do is get that next hitter out after we've made a mistake. That's been our biggest probably problem. We're all going to make mistakes, but we just can't seem to get that next hitter out after we do it.
That's Dale Swaim. He was talking about Wellington Castillo with that passed ball. But in the big picture, Castillo's gotten off to a good start. And actually, JD, an 11-17 club right now. I feel like the Cubs have played better than their record indicates.
Yeah, because they've let those games get away late. When the bullpen coughs up leads, you kind of think back, man, if we'd won those games, it'd be 3 or 4 games better in the standings.
All right, so the Cubs take on the Reds, the team right ahead of them in the standings. Cincinnati coming in at 15-14 on the year. It's a cold one today at Wrigley, but we're set for Cubs baseball on CSN. On a cold and drizzly Friday afternoon in Chicago, Comcast Sportsnet brings you Chicago Cubs baseball. Inside beautiful Wrigley Field, the Cubs will host the Cincinnati Reds in the first of a 3-game weekend series. Great to have you with us, Jim DeShays, Len Casper. We will get started on time. Probably some rain at some point later today. These two teams meeting up for the second time this season. Last week in Cincinnati, not a whole lot of offense.
No, and you go into Cincinnati, the Great American Ballpark, you expect a lot of runs to be put up on the board. That was not the case. Weather had something to do with it. Outstanding pitching had a lot to do with it. But look at the numbers. The Cubs at 217 in that series. The Reds 215. There were 2 one-run games, 1 2-run game, all low-scoring affairs. Outstanding work, especially that last game, the 1-0 game where Latos beat Samardzija.
And the Reds, a high-powered offense, but they've scored 17 runs over their last 9 games. Carlos Villanueva, excellent in his start at Cincinnati. He's coming off his first loss of the season at Miami.
Yeah, almost went the distance in that game against the Reds. He's been very, very good pretty much every time out. He's 1-1, 2.29 ERA. He's been awfully hard to hit. Batting average against him, 171. That's among the best in all of baseball.
The Cubs hitters have done very well individually and now collectively against Mike Leake. He's facing them for the 12th time in his career.
Yeah, and this current roster hitting better than .330 against Mike Leake. For the year, he's 1-1 with a .434, but despite those numbers, he's 4-2 lifetime against the Cubs.
Let's send it down to the field for our national anthem.
And join Wayne Messmer, accompanied by Gary Pressey at the Lowry organ, as they honor America with our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The great Wayne Messmer getting us ready for the Cubs and the Reds. Couple of really nice defensive plays yesterday for the Cubs. They could not close out the Padres, but they bring in a new opponent coming up next.
America Sportsnet is brought to you in part by your Chicago area and Northwest Indiana Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a Lexus today. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois. Through it all. BMO Harris Bank, helping money make sense. BMO Harris Bank, NA member FDIC. AT&T Uverse. Visit att.com/freeyourtv. Rethink possible. Ford. Check out America's freshest lineup at your local Ford store or at localfordstores.com. And by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com.
Welcome back to the ballpark. Game 5 of a 10-game homestand that'll go through next Wednesday. And the Reds a second of 4 opponents after this weekend. The Rangers come in for a makeup game Monday night, and then the Cardinals Tuesday and Wednesday. Get real-time info, including pitcher gas gauge stats, tweets with Cubs in-game live only at csnchicago.com. Brought to you by Comcast Business Class. Everybody bundled up today. Slight drizzle at the moment, but nothing that'll get in the way of the first pitch. And the Menards grounds crew rolling up the tarp. That's always a good sign about a half hour prior to game time. Field's in very good shape. I'm not sure if that guy in his shorts will be.
There's always a few. Before the end of the day, somebody will have their shirt off. Yeah, but the field looks to be in very good shape right now. As Len mentioned, a slight drizzle. Looks like the wind is blowing left to right across the outfield here at Wrigley Field.
Check out today's umpires. New crew in for the weekend. Mike Estabrook will call balls and strikes. Alan Porter at first. Greg Gibson, the crew chief, at second. Hunter Wendelstedt at third. I'm not sure which base that little guy is going to umpire. Maybe he'll be down one of the lines. A left field umpire in the green jacket.
He's like the final say. He just gives the thumbs up or the thumbs down. I don't know that I've ever seen a manager go to the home plate to exchange a lineup cards without a baseball hat on. This may be a first. Dusty's just wearing a ski cap.
Well, let's get Dusty's Reds lineup. 6th in the majors in runs, but again, not doing a lot offensively here lately. Their lineup brought to you by Southwest. Chu, Cozart, Votto at the top. Todd Frazier's going to clean up. Brandon Phillips just getting the day off. Jay Bruce leads the National League in strikeouts. Xavier Paul is in left. A couple of guys down and on the DL at that position. Devin Mesoraco, the catcher. Ryan Hannigan on the DL. Former Cubs Cesar Torres in for Phillips, and Mike Lee can really handle the bat.
And here are the Cubs defensively this afternoon. David DeJesus is in center. He's got Shearholtz in right, Soriano in left. Barney and Castro turn the double plays in the middle. Valbuena and Rizzo are on the corners. Wellington Castillo is behind the plate. Carlos Villanueva, he's going without the sleeves. He's our Lexus starting pitcher. He's 1-1 with a 2.29 ERA. And just sparkling numbers across the board for him. 171 batting average against. Look at the left-handers, 113. That's the lowest batting average by any right-handed pitcher against left-handed hitters. That's among starting pitchers. It's been a great run for Villanueva.
A frustrating loss, to say the least, yesterday as the Cubs had that 2-0 lead into the 8th. Just got to keep pushing along here as Dale talks with his pitching coach, Chris Bosio.
Yeah, you know, a frustrating loss. I mean, there's any number of ways you can lose a game, and it's frustrating. But a game that seemed to be in you know, kind of in the win column. The way Wood was pitching, Harrison hits the home run. Wind blowing in, a tough day to score runs. It just looked like it'd be very difficult for the Padres, who had been shut down the night before by Feldman, to get anything going with just 6 outs left to play with, and then a couple good at bats, a couple miscues by the Cubs, and Padres sneak out of town with a W.
So we're underway, ball one on Shin-Soo Choo. He and Joey Votto leading the National League in on base percentage. Choo coming in at .462. That's been helped by 10 hit by pitches, all in the month of April. And there's the first strike, 1-1. 41 degrees. North wind at 12 miles an hour, blowing straight in at the moment. Breaking ball in for a strike at 71.
Villanueva has had outstanding command of all of his pitches pretty much every time he started this year, and he's got a nice mix. 2 and 4 seam fastball, slider, curve, changeup.
The wind chill partner is 37.
All right. Well, I feel justified then having my ski hat and my gloves on.
Called strike 3 to get Choo.
Choo, who has been so good at setting the table for the Reds, is a strikeout victim here. A little come on back two-seamer, clipping the inside corner.
We'll bring up the shortstop, Zach Cozart. Huge defensive play back on April 24th in Cincinnati on David DeJesus. 8th inning, 2 outs. Runners at second and third. That would end the threat, and the Reds would hang on. 1-0 to win the rubber match. Sinker for a strike. 0-2. Reds have won 6 in a row here at Wrigley Field. The Cubs went 2-8 against them here last year. Swung on and missed. Back-to-back Ks for Villanueva to start it.
Talked about his mix of pitches. He got Choo, the left-handed hitter, with that two-seam fastball. Now he gets Cozart chasing the breaking ball down in the dirt.
That brings up Votto, and he promptly lines into right for the first hit of the afternoon. He went 2 for 14 in that series against the Cubs in Cincy.
A little double cross there by Joey Votto. He's usually a guy, especially the first time in the game, first at bat, is going to look at a pitch or two, but he comes up here first ball hacking off of Villanueva. It's smart hitting, though, to change up. You know, we talk so much about pitchers changing their patterns. It's important for hitters to do that too. Pitcher knows he can just pump a fastball through the heart of the strike zone because you take the first pitch all the time. You're always going to be behind in the count.
Todd Frazier pops it up, and it'll reach the seats. And off the on-deck circle.
Not in the lineup today, Brandon Phillips. Dusty Baker giving him a day off. And he has really struggled against Villanueva in his career.
Deep to center. DeJesus back on it. Over his head. Votto coming around third. Chris Spires going to send him to the plate. And a 2-out rally here in the opening inning gives the Reds a 1-0 lead. Frazier with his 20th RBI. In that cleanup spot for just the second time this season.
Now we know Frazier's got outstanding power and can drive the ball to the middle of the diamond. He hit a 480-plus foot home run against the Cubs off the Steamboat straightaway center field at Great American Ballpark. And here with Votto moving with the swing with 2 outs, he's able to come all the way around and score on that double by Frazier.
That'll give Jay Bruce an opportunity. 41 strikeouts leading the league. 1 home run on the year. That was off Travis Wood on April 22nd. Foul tip. And it's 0-2. Bruce paying a little bit too much attention to his Twitter feed.
What happened?
Well, he kind of snapped back at some people who were getting on him.
I don't know why a player would even entertain that.
Appreciate all the tweets, good and bad. You drive the game, not hitting as well as I'd like to. Then we get into that. I actually feel sorry for the people on here. I feel it's necessary to try and put me down on Twitter. Low and in. He did end it with everyone have a good night.
Yeah, you got it's the sandwich theory of psychology. Right. You're going to say something mean, you got to say something nice first, then hammer them, and then come back with something nice.
Well, I see both sides of it, and whether or not guys should respond or not is another question. But when fans and media say to players it's not personal when it's about their performance, well, let me tell you, it is personal. A lot of these guys have a ton of pride, and they do take it very, very personally. I'm not saying they don't deserve it in a lot of cases, but nobody likes to be criticized. When you're in the public domain, that's going to happen.
Well, that's
part of the gig.
If you put yourself out there and you're willing to engage with fans, I mean, that's part of the deal.
20th major league season as a manager. Dusty nearing 1,600 victories. Here's a 3-2 to Bruce, and he strikes out for the 42nd time this season. Frazier with the RBI double. Reds 1, Cubs coming up. Southwest starting lineup. Back to what we normally see against right-handers, with DeJesus leading off, Castro in that 2 spot after hitting 5th for 2 consecutive days. Rizzo, Soriano, and Scherholtz. Castillo, Valbuena, Darwin Barney has walked a ton already on the homestand, and Villanueva, the pitcher, batting 9th.
The Reds have been a solid defensive club. The outfield today features Paul Chu and Bruce. Chris Heisey just went on the DL recently. Frazier Cozart on the left side of the infield. Asturias makes his 2nd start of the season at second base, giving Brandon Phillips the day off. Joey Votto solid down there at first, and Devin Mesoraco Here's the backstop. Mike Leake is our Alexis starting pitcher for the Reds. He's 1-1 with a 4.34 ERA. Young right-hander, 25 years of age. First drafted by the Reds back in June of 2009. Went right to the big leagues.
Ball one on to Jesus.
Throws a lot of two-seam sinking fastballs. His heater will sit right around 90 miles an hour. He also throws a cutter, a slider, a curveball, and a change.
Jesus actually got a piece of his front foot. That makes it a foul ball. Late swing. Still 1-2. So lightly raining at the moment. And it is going to rain harder at some point today. It's just a matter of when.
Reds play David as a pull hitter on the infield. And pretty much straight up in the outfield. Good numbers against Leake.
A lot of the guys in the Cubs lineup today with previous success against Mike Leake. Frazier, perfect spot way off the line and able to make that a pretty easy play to get to Jesus. And we want to welcome those viewers watching us around the world. ESPN UK. In Canada on Rogers Sportsnet, and also on the Armed Forces Network. All the men and women serving around the world. Glad you're with us. Castro takes ball one. Chance for Frazier. 2 down. The Cubs got a couple of runs yesterday, but they were on a 2-run homer by Scott Hairston, still struggling to string together a big inning without the home run. We'll bring up Anthony Rizzo. He's been hot here lately, hitting 400. And that'll go up. His last 7 games coming in at 400. That's his 11th hit now over his last 8.
Taking a page out of the Votto book, attacking early, and he's been very successful. Most hitters are, when you look at the numbers, when the 0-0 pitch is put into play, hitters hit for a high average. The downside, of course, is if you hit it at somebody, make an easy out for the pitcher, a 1-pitch out. But Rizzo's been very successful when attacking that first pitch.
And a strike on Soriano. He has not had much success against Mike Leake. 2 for 21. One of those 2 hits, a home run.
Leake does all the little things well. Holds runners pretty well. He fields his position. He's Really good athlete. Swing the bat. And that's an understatement. He's a flat out a good hitter.
Yeah. Soft liner's going to drop in front of Xavier Paul, so back-to-back 2-out hits.
To go away with a breaking ball, it just kind of sits there off the plate but up. If it's down, he probably doesn't do much with it. Off the end of the bat, strong enough to pull it and get himself a knock.
Sherholtz coming into today tied with Anthony Rizzo for 5th in the National League with 14 extra base hits. David DeJesus is 8th with 13. Ground ball to Votto. And he'll take it himself, and that'll end the inning. Back-to-back 2-out singles, no runs, and the Reds have a 1-0 lead after the first. Samardzija watching this one, and let's get to our Coors Light freeze cam. Back to his start in Cincinnati, and had a very bloody index finger that he had to work through. Well, somebody caught a Zach Cozart foul ball from that game, and the Reds are auctioning off the game used ball from April 24th, and the bid is now up to $130.
Yeah, I think that was, it says listing is closed at the bottom. Does that mean it's gone? It's done? You can't bid on it?
Oh, yeah, right. So that's it. We have a winner.
I wonder if it was a Joey Votto foul ball, if that would have increased the value.
Yeah, that's a good question.
People will buy anything. Piece of Luis Gonzalez, already been chewed bubble gum, went for 10 grand.
Unbelievable.
Back in 2002.
The 1-0 to Xavier Paul, and he pulls this one fair right on the chalk line. And he'll have a leadoff double. Ryan Ludwig, Chris Heisey, both on the disabled list. Mixing and matching in left, and Paul normally comes off the bench in the lineup today.
Attacked early. Taking a whack at that second pitch he saw. A little two-seam fastball that was up.
Mesoraco, the catcher. Fouled back. The Reds have scored 1.9 runs per game over their last 9. And they've gone 3-6 during that stretch, hitting 195 as a team.
And they really struggled on the road. They're 3-10 on the road. They have not yet won a road series. They've won all their series at home, but they haven't won one on the road yet.
12-4 at Great American, but 3-10 away. Tied for the fewest road wins in the majors. Inside, 1-1. They had one hit on the 25th of April at Washington. One hit the next night. That was a Xavier Paul single. Valbuena will pick it up and keep Paul in second. So the Reds being held to 0 or 1 hit in consecutive games for the first time since 1900.
Wow. Who's on that club?
1900.
Fred Clark.
The Wayback Machine. Switch hitting Cesar Izturis, a former Cub. In for Brandon Phillips.
Nobody
Rare
scored
day
any
off
runs
for him.
back then, though, Len.
What's that?
Nobody scored any runs back then.
2-0. Pitcher Mike Leake on deck.
Mesoraco's inability to at least advance Paul allows the Cubs to keep the infield back here. Likely would have pulled it in if Paul was on third base. Topsy Hartzell hit 328 for that Reds club, 1900.
How could I have forgotten? Noodles Hahn. Hit just 209.
A guy from my hometown was on that team, a Hall of Famer, Bid McPhee.
Three and one. They used 6 pitchers the entire year.
Bid McPhee was the last second baseman to play without a glove.
Ball 4.
Kind of not really honoring my homie. I'm up here. I can't even keep score without gloves. He was playing baseball without them. They don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't.
Bid McPhee played without gloves. I can't even watch the game. Can't even keep a scorebook without gloves and a hat.
Hey, it's a big day today. You and I are going to sing the stretch.
I heard that rumor.
With the emphasis on you.
Don't they call it the conductor, right? Isn't the 7-inning stretch conductor? Isn't that the name of it? We'll just lead
the conductor
people.
sings, though, in this case. Inside on Leake.
And no indication of bunt here for Leake with 1 out in the inning. He's hitting 364. And that's not a fluke. I mean, he's not going to sustain that, but he'll finish the year with one of the highest batting average among pitchers.
Now he bunts, he pops it foul. Castillo just can't get there. A little sneak attack move by Leake.
Well, the fact that he did not show bunt on the first pitch caused the corner infielders to back off a little bit prior to that second offering. That may be why he decided to try to bunt. They were coming hard initially. So Rizzo now is actually behind the bag.
Swing and a miss.
Villanueva, originally signed by the Giants, traded to Milwaukee in 2004, made his major league debut in 06. His first start actually came against the Reds in that 06 season.
Leak lines to right, but it's right at Sherholtz for the out. Well, he thumped it. Two down. Back to the top, and Chu, acquired from Cleveland over the winter. Off to a great start. Chu in 2009 with Cleveland was the first Asian-born major leaguer to have a 20-20 campaign. 20 homers, 20 steals. He's from South Korea. He had a mandatory 2-year military commitment looming back home. In South Korea, men have to serve in the military for 2 years by age 30, but he received an exemption after he helped his country win the Asian Games gold medal in 2010. That's a strike, 1-1.
I wonder if that was something they said to him beforehand. Like, if we win this,
I think
then
so.
you're out of it. So it was like an incentive clause.
I believe that story came out before the gold medal. He'll turn 31 in July.
Yeah, what a big pickup for the Reds. They struggled at the top of their batting order last year. Drew Stubbs, who was traded to Cleveland for Chu, was a good defender and center fielder, a speed guy with power, but struck out a bunch, hardly ever walked. So he didn't give them that on-base presence at the top of the order that Chu does.
Line, and Castro with a good effort couldn't get it. Paul will come around. 2-0 Reds.
So they weren't able to advance Paul after the leadoff double until this 2-out knock by Chu. So both of the Reds' runs in this game coming with big 2-out hits. The Frazier double in the first, and now this Chu RBI single here in the second.
Bounce to Valbuena. He'll take it right to third to force Izturis. Chu with an RBI hit, and it's 2-0 Reds early. Action. Great to see Bears defensive end Shea McClellan with the ceremonial first pitch today. He's going with the short sleeves too. Those D linemen are tough.
Especially the ones from Ireland. Or Boise State.
Right. Mike Leake with an early 2-0 lead. Oh, 2 on Castillo. We talked about his mental gaffe yesterday after the passed ball. Did not hustle after the ball, even though Kyle Blanks had put on the brakes briefly. But really liked the way Wellington handled it after the game. He said, "That's on me. It's my fault. Apologize to my teammates. Stand up, take the heat, move on."
That ball gets by a catcher, goes to the backstop. He just assumes that the runner's coming down the line from third, and when it kicked away from him, I think he just gave up on the play.
Nice backhanded stab by Frazier, and he'll have time to get him.
The problem for Wellington was that Blanks had hesitated because he wasn't sure that ball wasn't going to kick right back to home plate. Frazier's been a busy man today. His third chance already. They've been good defensively, this Reds team. He's made a couple errors, as has Cozart and Votto. They kicked it around in one game against the Cubs over there in Cincinnati.
Called strike on Luis Valbuena. Pitch outside. Leak, 8th overall pick in the 09 draft from San Diego, went to Arizona State and went right to the big leagues the following season. His debut against the Cubs, in fact. Just missed.
Keyhole in him as this one just slides off the outside edge.
Hit hard on the ground, foul.
Rain starting to pick up a little bit. Some more umbrellas starting to pop up. Bumper shoots for those of you who are watching over in the UK.
Rolled into right and a base hit.
The 8th annual Chicago Cubs Charities Race to Wrigley 5K run presented by Athletico takes place on Saturday, May 11th, starting here at Wrigley Field. Participants will run around the neighborhood, finish under the legendary marquee at Clark and Addison. And if you raise more than $1,000, you can run a post-race victory lap around the ballpark on the morning track. And if you raise $500 or more, you can come inside and have a little brunch. For details, go to registerracetowrigley.com.
Darwin Barney, 6 walks in those 4 games against the Padres. Three hits, all doubles. Breaking ball did not get back to the plate. 2-0. Villanueva's on deck.
Darwin should get a good pitch to swing at here. Leak, one of those guys who, he doesn't like to give in, but 8-hole hitter up there, 2 balls, no strikes. He's likely to see a fastball here.
The pitch. It's a strike.
Just feathered it in there. A little BP, 82-mile-an-hour dead fish two-seamer. This is a count where if you were inclined, you might want to put a little play on down at the bottom of the order. Leak around the plate. Doesn't get a lot of swings and misses.
I'm looking for that heading under Mike Leake and Fangraphs. The dead fish two-seamer. Can't find it.
They don't have it there?
No.
A lot of guys, instead of throwing, using their changeup grip, they might just choke the ball back a little bit. And just you talked the other day about below hitting speed, so it's not necessarily a straight changeup. It's a little bit easier pitch to control. Just kind of, some guys refer to it as a BP fastball.
Another one just fouled to first. Well, the Reds' ace, Johnny Cueto, has been on the DL since the middle part of April with a sprained right lat. But has had a setback, some soreness in his oblique. I'm not sure how far back that'll push his schedule. Replaced by left-hander Tony Cingrani in the rotation. Cingrani's been really good. He'll pitch tomorrow against Jeff Samardzija. 2-2 back to Leake. Little bobble there, but they will still get the double play. It'll go 1, I believe 6-3 to end it. As we kick off this weekend set today here at Wrigley Field. Straight up noon tomorrow on CSN, and then a day game to finish the series on Sunday. Yeah, the first 10,000 fans receiving 20 Topps baseball cards today. The Cubs have an 82 card set that season ticket holders are receiving, and they're giving them out in 4 different installments to the first 10,000 fans in attendance today. 1-0 to Votto is high, 2-0. Cards 1 through 20, then 21 through 40 will be given out on Friday, July 5th against the Pirates. 41 through 60 against the Dodgers Friday, August 2nd. And then 61 to 82 on Friday, August 30th against the Phillies. These are great cards today. The set includes 1954 Topps design Ernie Banks card. Because Mr. Cub should always be card number 1.
Yeah, there he is, right there. Got it.
Ron Santo, Starlin Castro, Andre Dawson, Fergie Jenkins, Jeff Samardzija, Billy Williams.
But it looks to me, and I'm not a card aficionado, but it looks to me like what they've done is they've taken some of the current players and they put them in the designs of the cards from years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
They kind of mixed it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
So Ernie's is the 1954 design. Fergie Jenkins in the 96 design. Starlin Castro, the 1971 Topps card. Votto lifts into left. Soriano now had to hurry up there at the end as he makes the grab.
A slice spin off the left-handed bat of Joey Votto. Were you a card collector, Len?
I would say when I started collecting baseball cards, it was more about the awful bubble gum.
You're into the gum.
I was into the gum. But yeah, I still have a couple of Ozzie Smith rookie cards, which are worth something.
I used to have a bunch when I was a kid, but they're all gone. I seem to get a lot of George Mitterwald and Phil Roofs. And you were looking for Aaron and Mays and Mantle and Brooks Robinson.
I had my fair share of John Walken fusses, and
it was kind of neat to get the obscure guys too, because everybody knew the star players. You get to learn a little bit about.
That one hit a ton by Todd Frazier, but again, the wind is going to keep it in the park.
I don't think Soriano saw that initially. And it looks to be a very bright, white, overcast sky. But maybe not bright, but certainly white. It may be difficult picking up fly balls today. But Soriano, either he knew he was well positioned or was late to react, but settled under it and put it away.
I think Carlos was real happy with the pitch, but it worked out. Now Jay Bruce struck out in the first. This will be a quick 1-2-3 for Villanueva as Scherholtz makes a catch. 2-0 Cincinnati in the third. Nice note from former Cub Scott Air, the lefty, checking us out today. And Tribune Cubs beat writer Paul Sullivan, he's always working. He's off today, but he's dialed in watching the Reds and the Cubs. There's Villanueva swings and misses at strike one from Mike Leake.
I think Sully's hanging out on one of the rooftops somewhere.
Well, if he is, we'll find him.
You can run, but you cannot hide.
Sinker is too low, 2-1. Only game in town. Everything else is later tonight around the bigs. Swung on and missed. And again, based on the forecast and what looks like is coming, I think it's best that we started early today. Right down the middle to end the at bat, and the first strikeout for Leake. Nationals are at Pittsburgh tonight. Who would have thought coming into the season that the Pirates would have a better record going into that matchup? It's still early. The Pirates are 16-12. The Nats are 15-14. Ross Detweiler and A.J. Burnett, the scheduled starters.
Yeah, I think the Nationals, just a matter of time. Their starting pitching is so good. You know, to me, they're still a 95-win team in all likelihood. With one caveat, health. You never know.
Yeah.
If guys break down in that rotation, then they may have some problems.
Looking at Ryan Zimmerman, hopefully back in their lineup after a hamstring injury. Without him in their lineup, they have hit 197 as a team. Jason Worth banged up. Bryce Harper bruised his shoulder. That does not seem serious. Jesus down 1-2. In the air, left field. Paul with a long run, but he'll get to the spot.
Shortstop number 13, Castro.
He'll bring up Castro with 2 outs. He grounded to third his first time up. Cardinals beat Milwaukee last night to start a weekend set 6-5. Jake Westbrook got his 100th career win. We'll see the Cardinals on Tuesday here at Wrigley.
Jake Westbrook has a National League best 107 ERA. He's only 2-1 through his 5 starts, but 107 ERA. He's been tremendous.
I haven't seen him pitch on television yet, but I assume he's still using that heavy sinker quite a bit. That's what he does.
It's amazing how many pitches to our eye, to the viewer's eye, look clearly low when they're caught. And then when we put the grid up there on the pitch tracks, they're in the zone. That one was off the plate, but according to pitch tracks, high enough.
Full count, 3-2 with Rizzo on deck. Bruce and Wright to end the inning. Leake will carry a 2-0 lead into the fourth. For the Bulls as they take on the Brooklyn Nets. It's the game everyone will be talking about. You've got to watch with Neil and Stacy. Don't miss Bulls Nets Game 7 tomorrow night at 6 on Comcast Sportsnet. Nothing better than a Game 7. Let's hope the Bulls can get healthy. Undermanned, to say the least, last night. Paul swings and misses. He doubled to start the second and would come around on the Chu RBI single. Valbuena in on the edge of the grass at third. Everybody else is back. Pitch to Paul is hit in the air out into left center where Soriano will haul it in. Big story around baseball right now is Clay Buchholz of the Boston Red Sox. Jack Morris, Blue Jays broadcasters, convinced Buchholz was throwing a spitball the other night in Toronto. John Farrell, former manager of the Blue Jays and now the Red Sox skipper, vehemently defending his pitcher, but there are a lot of interesting layers to this.
Dirk Hayhurst, the radio announcer up there, also making the claim that Buchholz was doctoring the ball in that start against the Jays. The video I saw looked like he had a little something going on.
No, the Red Sox are saying it's rosin, I believe, correct? Backhanded by Castro. And he got it. Nicely done. As Zarocco retired.
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, rosin you usually use to get a better grip on the ball. Create some get a tacky feeling so you can spin your breaking ball. Now, spitball is just the opposite. You don't want tack. You want the ball to kind of squirt out of your finger. So, they had a clip of him going to his forearm, and there was something there. They said it was sunscreen on his arm.
The thing is, he could use that, right? So that.
Yeah, you can use it, but rosin's not going to. You're not going to get the slippery effect.
Yeah, when there's a rosin bag actually on the mound, to say you've got rosin on your arm,
right,
it's
right,
like, you just reach down and pick that up.
Someone bend over.
Cool Ranch. The new Cool Ranch Doritos Locos Tacos from Taco Bell. Liv Moss.
Come out and enjoy a game at beautiful Wrigley Field. The Cubs are back in action tomorrow and Sunday against the Reds. This Monday, it's under the lights with the Rangers, and then 2 against the Cardinals to finish the homestand. Tickets are available, including tickets in the Budweiser bleachers. For more information, visit Cubs.com.
Cubs will bat in the 4th. Rizzo, Soriano, and Scherholtz against Mike Leake, who's allowed 3 hits and no runs. So to finish up the Buchholz conversation, I don't know what he was doing, whether he was throwing a spitter, whether he was putting some sort of foreign substance on the ball. I'm surprised an umpire didn't see it and at least ask.
Well, and what happened was he was getting some real good movement on his 2-seam fastball, and that's what I think Morris got curious, is why he was getting such good movement at 95 miles an hour. And I haven't seen Buchholz pitch a lot. And when you read comments from other people within the Red Sox organization, this guy's always been nasty, so much so that it was a matter of him having to harness his stuff. So I'm not saying he was definitely doctoring the ball to create extra movement, but it did look like there was something on his arm, some kind of lotion or sunscreen that he might have been using for something. And there's all kinds of pitchers in the game that go out there with pine tar tucked here and there to get a better grip on their breaking ball. And I think for the most part, umpires and opposing players just assume that's a given. Because our guys do it, their guys do it. Nobody's going to get too worked up about it.
Nice play by Frazier. And they get him.
Second play Frazier has made today from essentially the shortstop position. Shaded that way for DeJesus, made a play on him, and now he gets Rizzo. Now, both these plays would have been made without the shift because the shortstop would have been playing there. But anyway, so I think the big concern, Votto, did he hang on to this?
Alan Porter, the first base umpire, said he had it at first, that it was on the transfer pulling the ball out of the glove.
So anyway, just to finish the point, I think the concern is when you're not just trying to improve grip, when you're actually doctoring the ball to create movement, whether you're scuffing the ball, using saliva, or some combination of saliva and sunscreen or lotion, that's when it rises to a different level.
Well, the big picture discussion, which we can't really have in this forum, it would take too long to kind of get to the bottom of it, and nobody really has a right or wrong answer, but what constitutes the right type of cheating? Can you cork a bat and scuff a ball and steal signs because that's always been accepted? But then we have the other sort of cheating, if you know what I mean, putting certain things in your body.
Right.
So where do we draw that line? Well, the culture of baseball is very interesting in that regard.
Stealing signs has always been a part of the game, and there's nothing illegal or cheating about if your guy's on second base and he's reading the catcher's sign. Now there's a way to police that on the field. If you think the other team is trying to steal your signs, you can knock some people down and obviously change your signs. The other stuff is clearly
punishable.
Bending the rule is punishable, right? Cork a bat, you get a 10-day suspension. You get caught doctoring the ball, you get a whatever 10-day suspension. It really hasn't been an issue in baseball for a long time.
The old line is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, but it seems to be different depending on what sort of cheating goes on. Send us your comments on today's game through Twitter using hashtag CubsTalk, and we'll read one back later in the game, our AT&T tweet. Watching from England, weather not much better over there, I guess.
Like, you know, you're a big hockey fan. Wasn't there, like, don't they measure the goalie's pads?
Yes.
Wasn't there a thing where guys were wearing
blade curvature?
Yeah, curvature of the stick.
Yep. The 3-2 to Soriano is hit out into fairly deep right, but Jay Bruce will get back there to make the play. It's starting to rain harder now, as we had heard it would. And with that in mind, the Cubs need to get something going here as we near that 5th inning.
The rain has picked up in intensity. I think they would just continue to play on through this if it stayed like this. Now, if there was something on the radar to indicate that this was going to get a lot uglier, they might roll the tarp out and wait a while.
Strike on Sherholtz. 2-0 Reds. They got a run in the first, another in the second. And again, Frazier way off the line at third against a left-handed hitter. This time, Sherholtz finds that hole between short and third. And again, if they were playing him straight up, he would have lined out to the shortstop.
He's done a lot of good work in this direction lately. He's seen that two-seam fastball away, and instead of pulling it, he stays on it. A number of hits in that direction in recent games.
Rifle a throw over there. Close to that time. The Rockies have signed Roy Oswalt to a minor league contract. He's 35 years old. Lifetime 4-0 with a .225 at Coors Field.
He's going to report to their extended spring program and worked his way into shape.
It's like bad news for the White Sox and Gavin Floyd. Got an injured right elbow, and it could be a bad one. 1-1 the count.
What are they saying?
Well, I guess he's going to. He's got an unstable ulnar collateral ligament. And he's going to visit a surgeon in New York on Monday and get another opinion. It does not sound good. He's 0-4 with an ERA in the 5s.
That's not good. Elbow probably had a lot to do with it.
Sherholtz runs. The pitch is actually in the dirt. The throw is high, and that allows Nate to get in safely. Zarocco had a lot going against him there, and he still almost got him. But the Cubs have a runner in scoring position for just the second time today.
Leaku had thrown over there with that quick pickoff move. That's going to tighten up your lead and your jump a little bit. Probably a little bit of a slow track, too. Ball in the dirt, the high throw allows Sherholtz to get into scoring position. 2 outs, not a bad time to gamble.
Breaker in for a strike. It's now 2-2.
The Cubs don't have, great team speed. They don't have like an Everett Cabrera, guy's going to steal 40 bags for you, but they got a number of guys who are capable. They pick their spots. Pretty efficient in that department.
Yeah, the base running has improved a lot. Back to Leak. And that's it. So that'll take us to the 5th inning. It's Cincinnati 2, the Cubs 0.
Nothing. We head to the 5th. If the Cubs score 3 runs in today's game, you can receive a free queso offer from Qdoba. Just text queso Cubs to 50500 to opt in to the Qdoba Mobile Club.
Reds will bat leading 2-0. And the Cubs today announced their minor league player and pitcher of the month for April. Rock Shoulders, Kane County infielder. Eric Jokic, Double-A Tennessee left-hander, minor league player and pitcher of the month. Shoulders just 21 years old, hit .370 with 5 homers in 22 games. Mike Leake with a high fly to left. And again, pushing that one back toward the infield as Soriano makes a catch. Jokic 3-1 with a 184 in 5 April starts. He's just 23. Jokic went to Northwestern, a native of Virginia, Illinois. Chu almost got hit for the 11th time this season.
If there were a tie game in the 8th inning, he might have been hit for the 11th time. Villanueva's been able to hold the Reds at 2, despite the fact that I think he would tell you that he's just not real sharp in terms of his command today. He's left a lot of pitches up.
4 runs in 6 innings on Sunday in Miami's first loss of the season. Soriano hustling, and he makes a catch. Chicago Cubs summer camps offer children ages 5 to 13 of all abilities the ultimate major league experience in convenient locations around the Chicago area. Join fellow teammates for a week of top-notch baseball instruction, exclusive VIP access, and unforgettable moments. Go to Cubs.com/camps to sign up your future Cub today. So that is now 5 putouts by Soriano in the last 3 innings.
I talked about Villanueva being up in the zone. Maybe it's by design. Maybe with the wind blowing in, he's just willing to throw it up there and let him hit the ball in the air. It's interesting, this year, prior to this start, his ground ball rate was significantly higher than in his career. Today, a lot of outs in the air.
A 1-2 count on Cozart. Cold and soggy here at Clark and Addison today. The fans came prepared.
Those nachos before they get cold and soggy.
A deep breath by Villanueva. Here he comes on a 2-2, and it's hit foul. Interesting story going back to his teen days in the Dominican. Sammy Sosa was with the Cubs at the time, and as a favor to Villanueva's manager, Sosa watched him throw and recommended him to the Cubs front office, who brought him to Arizona to give him a look, and eventually with the Giants got to the big leagues with Milwaukee, and here he is with the Cubs. Soriano gets over there, but it's out of play. He is also a member of the Players Association Executive Board, the only current member not born in the United States. Really engaging guy. Rizzo, Barney, Scherholtz. Oh, look out, Darwin Barney. He just lost his footing there on the wet track, but that could have been really bad. Remember, he ended up on the DL to start the year, going after a similar ball in Houston. Yikes.
Yeah, scary the way he ultimately went down. There's 3 guys pursuing this pop foul. Nobody had a real good beat on it. Scherholtz goes feet first. Rizzo pulls up, and Barney just stumbles into that seating area. Oh, my. Lucky he didn't crack a rib.
Could not have felt too good on his back. As you mentioned, the ribs. Swung on and missed, and the inning is over. We'll go to the bottom of the 5th. The Reds lead by 2. Three in the Cubs order against Mike Leake, who's been very good. He is 4-2 lifetime against the Cubs. This is his 12th start versus Chicago and his 7th at Wrigley Field. So obviously it's a place he feels comfortable pitching. He's only allowed more than 3 earned runs against the Cubs 2 times in his career. 1-1 on Valbuena. Here it is. It's a strike.
Cutter in, the 2-seamer away. He works east and west. He can slow you down with the off-speed stuff. Well, makes that fastball, which is relatively modest in terms of its velocity, that much more effective.
Line in the left and a base hit. Luis is 2 for 2.
Hey fans, check out the Cubs Kids Club presented by ComEd, the official kids club of the Chicago Cubs. Help your favorite young Cubs fan earn his or her pinstripes as a member of the Cubs Kids Club. And they'll receive kid-specific perks, experiences, and merchandise throughout the 2013 baseball season. Visit Cubs.com today to sign up. Part of a very talented group of starting pitchers that the Reds have. They were outstanding last year. They are again this year.
Leaks 0-1. Knocked down by Mesoraco.
Starting pitchers have pitched to a 3.07 ERA. That's the second best mark in the National League. It's the first time today the Cubs have had a leadoff man reach base.
Valbuena goes on a curveball. They'll stay out of the double play as Barney bounces to Cozart.
See, there goes Valbuena. The second baseman covers the bag. Shortstop Cozart stays home, and he handles that ground ball for Barney, but no double play because the hit and run was on.
And it's being away, but not in a bunting spot with a runner already in scoring position and 1 out. Reds outfield not deep at all. With the wind blowing in and the pitcher at the plate, and he bunts foul.
Sure why he was doing that, and
David
Bell's
going to tell him, we don't need you to do it
Yeah.
now, Carlos.
Yeah, and I think the whole MO behind that hit and run play is to stay out of the double play. Barney hits in a double play. You got Villanueva up there with 2 outs and nobody on, and your inning is shot. This way, Dale, he at least gets that man to second base on that hit and run play. He knows DeJesus is going to have a shot at driving him in.
Called strike 3. Both punch-outs today for Leak have been looking in both against the pitcher. We'll leave it up for the leadoff man, DeJesus.
Are you a flock of seagulls fan? What?
Sure.
They're playing shallow center field right now. A cluster of them right there, playing the rover position.
Space Age love song. Where's the one with the funky hair? I don't see it.
He's been ostracized. He's out of the band. the situations where the Cubs have really struggled this year with runners in scoring position. Lately better. Haven't had many chances today, just a couple of so far. Prior to this, Villanueva de Jesus back-to-back ABs with a man in scoring position.
The battery tries to figure out how to get De Jesus. No sign needed here after they just had a conversation on the hill. A 1-1 from Leake. Outside.
Jesus does not go out of the zone very often. He usually forces the pitcher to throw him strikes. Every now and then he'll chase a high heater, sharp breaking ball down and in, but for the most part he's going to make you throw it over. He's being very cautious here with that man in scoring position. He's got a 2-run cushion. The wind blowing in, really the situation calls for a very aggressive pitch here, unless he just feels that comfortable with Castro.
And he pops it up. This is Torres to end the inning. Is Strand Valbuena at second. 5 now in the book. Say goodbye to the flock of seagulls. Another edge of your seat thriller from the Madhouse as the #1 seeded Hawks look to take down the Wild in Game 2. Live coverage from the UC begins tonight at 8. Blackhawks and Wild, Game 2 tonight on Comcast Sportsnet. Blackhawks a winner in overtime in Game 1. Still 2-0. As Votto, Frazier, and Bruce will bat against Villanueva in the 6th inning. Change-up strike. But imagine Joey Votto is rooting for the Leafs. Maple Leafs are back in the playoffs for the first time in I think like 7 years. Votto hails from Toronto. Now 1-2.
The Senators knocked off the Habs in Montreal last night.
Yeah, they did.
Their goaler made 48 saves, Craig Anderson. I think he's a local guy.
Brutal hit in that game. Lars Eller went down. What do they call it? Facial dental fractures?
Ooh,
didn't sound good. Two. Just didn't come back to hit that corner, according to Mike Estabrook. And spanked into center. Joey Votto with his second hit. 2 for 3.
On Wednesday, May 15th, join Chicagoland police officers and their supporters for the Chicago Cubs annual Law Enforcement Night at Wrigley Field. The Cubs will honor local officers in a pregame ceremony. All fans who purchase tickets through the special events page at Cubs.com will receive a Law Enforcement Appreciation Night t-shirt. For more information or to purchase those tickets, visit Cubs.com/special events. Votto's such a good hitter. He kind of sniffed out that fastball from Villanueva. Carlos likes to throw that two-seamer in on lefties. He went in there hard off the plate and then went back in there in that last offering. And other guys might have been looking away and then rung up looking, but Votto was ready for it, put a good swing on it.
Votto, one of the most cerebral hitters in the game. And the reason I say that is there are times, and we saw it in that series in Cincinnati, when he looks just awful on a swing, which leads you to believe that he does guess a lot. He tries to think along with the pitcher. And he's right a lot of the time, like that last swing. Frazier with a double, and he flied to deep left his last time up. And that's why he gets a 2-0 breaking ball for a strike. 2-1. Aramis Ramirez back in the Brewer lineup tonight against St. Louis, coming back from the knee injury. So he missed 4 weeks. The Brewers got hot without him. I'm sure they're happy to have him back.
Well, they won't have to play that 4 shortstop infield any longer.
Right. Long pause before the 2-1, and it's inside. 3-1.
Bad idea to try to crowd Frazier. He hit that double straightaway center field first time. We talked about the big home run he hit in Cincinnati, which at the time it may still be the longest home run of the year. He hit that 480 plus. A sign of respect. 3-1 changeup. The man at first and nobody out. A sign of respect and also an indication of the confidence that Villanueva has in that changeup and the ability to throw it over.
Votto goes on the 3-2, and off the end of the bat, Frazier pops into left. Votto able to locate where the ball is, and he'll get back to first.
the 6th putout for Soriano today. The Cardinals have sent Mitchell Boggs to the minor leagues. Actually replaced Jason Mott as the closer for a time. He's had some success with St. Louis in recent seasons, but scuffling this year with an ERA over 12. So he's going to go down to Memphis and try to sort it out.
Edward Mojica's been closing lately, right?
Yeah.
Well, Jason Mott is trying to stave off Tommy John surgery. Well, originally they had a deadline of around May 1st to figure out whether or not he would have surgery, but they've kind of softened on that, so still yet to be determined what will happen with their closer who hasn't thrown a pitch in the big leagues this season.
Looked like Bruce was taking a shot the other way there. You normally think of Bruce as a power guy who tries to pull everything. And he can't, boy, even outer third and down, we've seen him go out and hook that ball. Strong guy.
The 0-2 is outside. 1-2 to Jay Bruce.
Wellington Castillo slide well outside there for that 0-2, wanting to make sure that Villanueva did not make a mistake in the strike zone. Make it perfect or outside of perfect. Now they're coming in.
That will be a fair ball. Votto will be sent by Chris Spire. Relay throw from Rizzo. Late. RBI double Jay Bruce. It's 3-0.
Carlos had retired 10 in a row coming into this inning. Votto spoiled that run with the single. And again, they're trying to crowd him here with a slider or cut fastball. And left it down. A big, strong guy like Bruce is pretty good downstairs. If you're going to try to jam him, you want that ball up above the belt, in on the hands. Either that or bury it on that back foot, try to get a swing and miss. That one was kind of stuck in between.
So Bruce in scoring position with one out. Chris Bosio out to the mound. Looks like Bowden is ready.
Maybe a chance to revisit the game plan with Paul and Mesoraco due up here. Down 3 already are the Cubs. And this Reds bullpen is really tough, and they'll afford to give up any more. But the Reds struggles offensively lately. 17 runs total in their last 9 ball games. In 7 of those 9 games, they had scored 2 runs or fewer. So in a sense, this is breaking out of it for them today with 3 on the board.
Paul from Slidell, Louisiana. Paul originally signed with the Dodgers after committing to Tulane. was back in 2003. Xavier Paul. Here's the 0-1. And he went around. 0-2 the count.
They seem to be happy enough despite the cold and rain.
Sharply hit grounder right to Barney, with Bruce advancing to third, 2 outs. Well, it's cold here. It was cold in Arlington, Texas last night. And it was bark in the park, you know, where they let the dogs come in. And a resourceful dog wearing the jacket. Good way to stay warm.
Not a dog, that's just a bad looking human.
That is a large dog.
That's a good looking dog.
Runner at third, 1 in. And Mesoraco takes ball 1.
Speaking of bark in the park, there was a play way back in the annals of baseball history where a dog actually was kind of getting after the center fielder and it led to an inside the park home run. That doesn't happen anymore. You don't see that in the modern game.
I assume it was a park that did not have an outfield wall.
Who knows? Yeah, no outfield wall or just a dog that was hanging around the club.
Mesoraco is from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
That's where Ned Ryerson is from.
That's right.
And John Miserock, who was a big league catcher for a time and longtime coach, is from Punxsutawney as well.
So Miserock and Mesoraco are from Punxsutawney. Reds will get another as Bruce scores. Mesoraco on his way to second. And he's going to stop there with a double. 4-0.
Carlos Villanueva, as soon as that ball was hit, went into a crouch, buried his face in his glove, and had some things to say to himself. He had Mesoraco on the ropes, had him down in the count, and just threw him a hanger up in his eyes. That really haunts you. It's one thing to, you know, if you got to challenge a guy 2-0, 3-1, and he puts a good swing on you. But when you have the jump on a hitter, especially a guy down towards the bottom of the order, you feel like you should be able to finish him off.
Here's Tourist, ball 1. So the Reds getting to 4 runs for just the second time during this stretch. Second time in their last 10 games. Two balls and a strike.
Started in that finale of the series with the Cubs in Cincinnati, the 1-0 ball game.
have now moved to the bleachers. It's a little all you can eat at the moment. 2-2 pitches. Tourist chops foul wide of first. The corner, full count, Leak on deck. Villanueva laboring here to get out of this 6th inning.
Yeah, and no disrespect to his tourist, but I mean, you're not thinking about pitching around his tourist here with Leak on deck, the way he handles the bat.
Full count offering in the dirt.
Willing to spit on that 3-2 changeup and take his walk because he knows Mike Leake behind him can handle the bat.
So that'll be it for the starter. The Honda call to the pen. Here comes Michael Bowden. 4-0 Reds.
He's out there for the 11th time. 1-1, 3.97 ERA. Michael's allowed 10 hits, a couple of walks, 6 punch-outs in his 11 1/3 innings of work. Everybody's hitting 250. The opponents, the left-handers, and the right-handers. And for the first time all year, Carlos Villanueva fails to go 6. Struggled a little bit early, was really good in the middle, retired 10 in a row, and then they got to him again here in the 6th. Stylish baby right there.
2 runs in, 2 on. It's Mesoraco. He doubled in Bruce, who doubled home Votto. Popped up right side, and it's a backpedaling Darwin Barney to end the inning. Bottom 6, now Cincinnati 4, and the Cubs nothing. It's a #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. At Bat delivers Cubs baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and more. Text At Bat to 31826 or visit Cubs.com for details. They're feasting here. It's either late lunch or early dinner.
A little tug of war going there.
Yeah.
The Alpha Bird. They're gathering at second base to fight over the pizza. This is good stuff.
So Castro leads off against Leake. Cubs down 4.
Who's the second base umpire today? Greg Gibson. He was walking over to a cluster of birds to try to shake them up while that pitch was being delivered. He had to slam on the brakes and get out of the second baseman's way in case the ball was put in play.
Joey Votto camped underneath.
Not been a lot of hard contact off of Mike Leake here this afternoon.
White Sox and Royals already postponed.
Snowed out yesterday. I'm guessing more of the same today. This is May, correct?
It is May 3rd, in fact.
Yeah.
Rizzo breaks his bat as he rockets one into the Reds dugout. Shot by Danny Mueller. Cubs bat boy.
Rain starting to pick up again. We talked earlier about the Reds bullpen. Been awfully good. Aroldis Chapman, the closer, 6 out of 6 in save opportunities. He's got an issue with somebody on this Reds club. He's banging that ball into the dugout. Tusty's unfazed.
Left field, and this one slicing away from Paul. It'll get to the barrier as Rizzo will end up at second base. He's 2 out of 3.
Well, that fastball leaked back over the middle of the plate. It looked like they were trying to go in again, and he missed his spot. And Rizzo able to exploit that mistake by Leake, and now the Cubs have to cash in. A little something done here. Reds were off yesterday, so that bullpen should be pretty well rested.
That is a fair ball, and the Cubs will get on the board as Rizzo comes around third to the plate. Soriano to second. Back-to-back doubles with 1 out, and it's now 4-1.
Well, that's Soriano's sweet spot. Enter third and down a little bit. No chance for Frazier to track that one down. Soriano with just his 3rd RBI of the year. 82 now in scoring position. Chance for a crooked number. last time up. Nate singled to left field on a two-seam fastball that was moving away. See if they try to crowd him a little bit in this at-bat.
Shallow left. This could get down. It will. Perfectly placed. Soriano will score on a bloop single by Sherholtz, and they all of a sudden have cut the deficit in half, 4-2.
Indeed, they did crowd Sherholtz. They jammed him, got weak contact, but it turned out to be a thing of beauty for Nate Sherholtz as he fights off this high inside fastball, kind of inside out swing, doesn't hit it well. And what a great read by Soriano. Comes off the bag with an aggressive secondary lead and makes a good early read on that pop-up, knowing that nobody's going to be able to make a play on it.
It's Brian Price, their pitching coach. They'll get somebody up. In the visiting bullpen, 3 consecutive one-out hits, and the tying run will come to the plate. That's Sam LeCure. Wellington is grounded out twice to third and to the pitcher. Was trying to tie it with that swing. Well, the Reds almost put this one out of reach with 2, but the Cubs have come right back.
Nothing wrong with taking a big swing on that first offering. Guessing fastball, trying to run into one. Still got a couple strikes to play with.
Called strike that time, 0-2. And he got him. That's out number 2. Time for our AT&T tweet of the game. Comes from Kelsey. How come all ballparks aren't the same dimensions when every other sport has the same dimensions? That's a good question. Well, certain dimensions are the same. From base to base, the pitcher's mound, all those things are standard.
It would be boring if all the fields were the same.
I agree. That is a base hit rolled into right. It'll send Sherholtz around to third. That's a 4th Cub hit of this inning. And that will signal the end of Mike Leake's afternoon.
Fourth hit of the inning and 3rd of the afternoon for Valbuena.
Honda call to the pen. LeCure for Leake when we come back. To the pen. Sam LeCure off to a good start.
Yeah, he sure is. 1-0 with a 1.64 ERA for the righty. He first came to the big leagues with the Reds in 2010 after working his way gradually through their minor league system. A guy who throughout his minor league career had been a starting pitcher, and he still pitches like a starter in that he uses the whole toolkit. Most guys come out of the pen primarily two-pitch pitchers, but he's 2 and 4-seam fastball, slider, curve, and a changeup. Curveball might be his best pitch.
Darwin Barney pops it up on the first pitch. Is Tourist drifting, and he's got it. Well, the Cubs do get those 2 runs back, so we go to the 7th. It's 4-2 Reds. For the latest edition of Sports Talk Live. Get Cap's take on today's Cubs game, a preview of tonight's Stanley Cup playoff, and a lively debate on the day's hottest sports topics. Sports Talk Live presented by Smirnoff tonight at 5:30 on Comcast Sportsnet. We'll see if the Cubs bullpen can keep the Reds right where they are. And the offense can make a comeback here in the late innings after getting on the board in the 6th. And we are 3 outs away from your 7th inning stretch debut.
No.
Are you ready?
I'm thinking maybe go a little Dylan. Maybe go a little Dylan-esque.
Sure. Well, I'll help you. I was kind of hoping they'd throw you in the deep end, but you've got a lifeguard today.
We could alternate lines. You be Peaches, I'll be Herb. I'll be captain, you be Tennille.
Top of the order now for the Reds, starting with Shin-Soo Choo. 1 for 3 with an RBI single.
Well, mission pretty simple here for Bowden. Keep the Reds off the scoreboard. Easier said than done with this guy at the top of the order, and that 460 plus on base percentage he brings to the table. And that's obviously got to come down. It's crazy high, but he's always been a good on base guy. Steal a bag for you, and he's got some power too. The big question was, how would he handle center field? And talking to the Reds people, I'm pretty pleased with the way he's played out there.
Two and one.
South Koreans to play in the major leagues. Including Hee-Seop Choi, who called Chicago home for a while.
Young Kim. Chan-Ho Park, 17 years.
He ended up with 17 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was part of that rotation in LA there for a while. They had 5-man rotation, 5 different countries represented in that rotation. Yeah, Nomo might have been part of it, Ishmael Valdez. Ramon Martinez, maybe.
Yeah, Pedro Stasio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wide for ball 4 and the dreaded leadoff walk.
And Chu, a guy who doesn't chase many and certainly wasn't going to go after that one. That was well out of the zone. See how the Reds decide to play it here as we move into the later stages of this game. Cozart has not done much with the bat this year. He has hit 4 home runs, but he's hitting for a low average. For 3 today with a couple of punch outs. Reds have not run much, and they have not been very efficient. They've stolen 8 bases. They've been caught 8 times. Chu is 2 for 2 in steal attempts.
Pretty big lead over there. He was leaning, not running, and a pop up by Cozart. Sidestepping Rizzo, got over near the tarp once again. This time didn't have to go behind it though to make the grab.
Today's coach for the Reds, Billy Hatcher, having some fun with him as this ball looked like it was not going to be close to the wall and just continued to drift. Anthony first starts to settle under it, and there, watch where he ultimately ends up.
I've already planted the seed with your former teammate.
Who's that?
Billy today, and I said, you got any good dirt on JD? Let me know. We'll see you guys a lot this year. Nothing came to mind immediately,
That's
so
good,
I guess
yeah.
that's good for
Hatcher
you.
got nothing on me.
Former Cub, Billy Hatcher.
Started here, correct?
Yeah. 6th round pick in 1981. Made his debut with the Cubs in '84. That great World Series with the Reds in '90. Outside, 2-0. He hit .404 in 14 career postseason games, including 9 for 12 in the 1990 World Series.
He hit that big home run in the '86 playoffs for the Astros against the Mets. Tied the game in the 14th inning, a game the Mets ultimately won in 16.
That game was on over the winter.
And the result never changes.
No. The throw goes to second because Chu took off for second, but then he stopped. So Castillo threw the ball Well, that was an odd-looking turn of events there. Votto with an awkward swing through it. Castillo just fired it blindly to second.
Well, a couple things, three things. One, obviously the throw shouldn't have been made. Two, it probably should have been blocked, although that wasn't easy. And three, it points out the value of quote-unquote playing the whole game. Chew that hard bluff off of first base. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort, but sometimes it can influence the opposition, whether you get an infielder breaking to the bag to cover and opening a hole, or you get a catcher who's a little jumpy making a throw when he need not.
Meantime, it's 2-2 on Votto.
This is a situation that Dale talked about yesterday, a little bit more today, and he's talked about it frequently this year. You know, mistakes happen sometimes, and the pitchers have to pick up their teammates.
The pitch. Hit foul out of play.
And we talk so much about it being, it's the pitcher's game, and more so with the starting pitchers. It's his game, so if there's errors made behind him, it's like he's been harmed by the action of his teammates. Everybody's just trying to win games. And defensive players pick up pitchers, and it's pitchers' responsibility to pick up their mates when they make a mistake, whether it's physical or mental. Now, Bowden's task a little harder here with a man in scoring position and arguably the best hitter in the National League in the batter's box. A lot like Ryan Braun, if he thinks he's going to get an off-speed pitch, he'll just stay back and fight off fastballs and look for that. Probably in this case, he's probably maybe thinking splitter with Michael out there.
Really don't want to give up anything here after getting the 2 runs in the bottom of the 6th. The next 2-2 hits Votto.
Better than making a mistake out over the plate in this situation. You're trying to push him off the plate with an inside fastball, likely with an idea of coming back with a split finger pitch. And Votto just hanging in there and taking that one. So that's not a horrible result for Bowden and the Cubs with Votto in the box. Now he's got to get a double play ball here from Frazier.
A walk and a hit batter. And 2 on for Frazier. And he couldn't help himself. Went around on the slider. Look at our AT&T UVerse multi-view. Lead runner there in the middle picture is Chu. Votto on the right is at first. Pitch in the dirt.
Frazier and Phillips have been the beneficiaries of all the on base, all the at bats with men on base because of Otto and Chu. They've been the key guys in terms of driving in runs for this club. Double play still in order because Castillo able to get out there and block and contain this ball in the dirt.
Phillips out of the lineup today, just getting the day off, a rare one for him. So Frazier in that cleanup spot. Bowden's 2-1. Now 3-1.
Michael really deliberate, taking a lot of time between pitches. And sometimes that really make it difficult to throw the ball where you want to.
And he has loaded the bases without a hit. A rough outing in Cincinnati last week. Gave up 3 runs, took the loss in an inning and 2/3 on April 22nd.
There's no plan B right now. There's nobody up in the Cubs bullpen, so you're going to have to deal with the dangerous left-handed hitting Jay Bruce here. Cubs prefer to save James Russell for games in which they're protecting a lead. You got to be careful how often you use a guy. And this is where it would be valuable if they had a second option from the left side in the bullpen.
That game I was talking about earlier, he pitched a scoreless 12th and then allowed the 3 runs in the 13th. Today trying to keep his team in the game, down 4-2 in the 7th. Knocked down by Bowden, and he's got to throw to first for the out. The Reds get a run. Bruce will pick up an RBI. It's 5-2.
He's able to handle this cleanly, and it was well hit by Bruce. He's had a lot on it back to the mound. If he gets it cleanly, he's probably going to go 1-2-3 for the double play. He took a quick look at home, figured he had no shot there, and then his only play remaining was first base.
Still 2 in scoring position, and with the bag open, they will intentionally walk Xavier Paul. Here's ball 4. So Devin Mesoraco will bat with the bases loaded.
Yeah, this is the problem. This is the rub with late inning relief. You know, it's a 4-2 game. You're down. There's a man in scoring position, so you're thinking, well, I can't afford to give up a hit here. So you start to pick and nibble, and understandably so with dangerous hitters up there. But it does set up, you know, the chance for a real big inning.
They've scored a run without a hit. 4 base runners, a walk, a hit batter, another walk, and then an intentional freebie. And Mesoraco fouls into the upper deck.
Yeah, a whole lot has happened since, but you know, a lot of this inning keyed by Chu bluffing that start off of first base and Castillo throwing the ball into center field.
A throwing error, yeah. Adding that to the mix. Get right back to what Dale talked about in the pregame. These types of innings have blown up on the Cubs. Need Bowden to make a pitch here.
That's why there's so much value in big arms in the bullpen, whether it's closers, late inning guys. You know, the more strikeouts you have late in games, the less likely you're going to fall victim to goofy, fluky bloopers and bleeders, and things of that nature. Keep the ball out of play.
Three and one. Bowden now with his back against the wall with the bases loaded. He's made 31 pitches, only 13 strikes. He needs a quality one right now. Popped up. Castillo able to locate it behind home plate. That's the inning. Time for the stretch.
Guest conductors for Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Cubs television broadcasters Len Casper and Jim DeShays.
All right, Cub fans, a big Chicago welcome to my new partner, Jim DeShays.
We are thrilled to call Chicago home. A one, a two, a three. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out Let's get some runs.
That was great. That was fun.
That was fun.
Five to 2, and pinch hitting for Bowden is Julio Bourbon. 0-1. Strange line for Michael Bowden. An inning and a third, no hits, 3 walks, and a run. Oh, 0-2 the count.
Man to hit batsman.
1-2. All right, so what are your thoughts now on singing now that you've done it?
I'm good. I've done it. It's in the books. I've fulfilled my obligation. I'll have to wait till I hear the playback, till I hear the audio. I'm going to withhold judgment.
In the air, Chu doesn't have to move much.
Planning a special day or night at Wrigley Field? Personalize your visit by purchasing a special message to be seen on the center field scoreboard. Messages are posted in the middle of the 5th inning, and all proceeds benefit Chicago Cubs charities. For more information or to purchase your scoreboard message, visit Cubs.com/scoreboard messages.
Well, you didn't seem nervous, confident. Yeah, I was impressed.
Well, you know, if you weren't there, you know, I was just trying to support you because you got some skill, and like I said, I want to be your pip.
No, there was one fan down in the lower bowl looking up saying, turn it down, but that was it. Everybody else was very nice. One and 0 to DeJesus. Still looking for his first hit today.
Come from a
very good curveball.
Long line of bad singers. The holidays at my grandmother's house growing up, a bunch of French Canadians singing Christmas carols after drinking beer all day. Just not pretty. That's in my DNA. It's unfixable.
Well, one of your daughters can sing. I know that, right?
A couple of them, yeah.
It's a base hit for DeJesus.
I get that from their mom. Well, this seems to be a good time to get a little something going. One out in the 7th, man on, 2, 3, 4 coming up. Jesse has not yet run out the big arms in his bullpen. Sean Marshall's up. He was up last inning as well. So he's got Marshall ready, probably for Rizzo.
High for ball one. There's a former Cub, Sean Marshall, who still makes his winter home here in Chicago. Recently on the disabled list. Outside, 2-0. Cure throws home, and it's up and in. It's 3-0. Rizzo on deck. Three and one. Neil Walker has been placed on the disabled list by the Pirates. He has a right hand laceration. News just coming down. 3-1. Ball four.
Likely will do it for LeCure. Rizzo has had a nice day so far. 2 for 3, single double and a run scored. And Sean Marshall will come out of that Reds bullpen to try to neutralize him.
The Honda call to the pen. We'll be back. It's a Honda call to the pen, and former Cub Sean Marshall will make his 4th appearance. Cubs have runners at first and second. With 1 out, Anthony Rizzo due up.
He made 1 appearance, then went on the DL, and he's made a couple appearances since coming off, so he's missed most of the year so far. He had left shoulder tendonitis. Fastball, slider, curveball, cutter. Real good breaking stuff. Rizzo's been good against lefties this year, really good.
Jesus at second, Castro is at first. Shortstop Cozart really close to the bag at second. And curve for a strike. Well, going back to his Cubs days, Sean Marshall likes to pitch backwards. He'll go breaking ball early, and then when he gets ahead, he'll go with his fastball. He was setting up for Carlos Marmol. The Cubs had 2 relievers who rarely threw their fastball. They're breaking ball pitchers. How about this, JD? According to Fangraphs, his last 3 years with the Cubs, he never threw his fastball more than 25% of the time.
He had such good command of his breaking stuff, both the slider and the curveball. Hitters generally want to hit the fastball, so if you can get the breaking stuff over, and he doesn't just have soft little get over breaking ball. He can bury it down in the dirt. So he'll change the angle on it a little bit, make it a little sharper when he's trying to finish you off. And as you said, he will go to that fastball as a surprise pitch. He feels like he slowed your bat down with the breaking stuff. He'll try to jam you with a heater.
See what he does with Rizzo. And he goes with the breaking ball, and it's punched out into center to load the bases. Nice piece of 2-strike hitting by Rizzo.
Indeed. Another breaking ball with 2 strikes. It just shortened up and punched it into center field. Talk so much about strikeouts being up, and a lot of it is guys unwilling to adopt any kind of a 2-strike approach. Rizzo choked up a little bit on the bat, just flips it into center field. Wet ball almost eludes Chu out there.
This is our Ava's slow-mo replay. So this is the opportunity the Cubs have been building towards here late. They're down 3. But they have the bases loaded, and their cleanup hitter at the plate. Curve is inside.
Cubs haven't hit a grand slam yet this year, in case you were wondering.
I was. Haven't even hit a 3-run homer. They've connected 36 times, 19 solos, 17 2-run shots.
Fairly predictable result there with Marshall throwing that breaking ball down and in on Soriano, that he'd pull the ball hard to the left side. The question is, if he hits it on the ground, can he find a hole? Torres right behind the bag at second. Cozart a step in the hole. Not a whole lot of room between third and short.
The 2-1 pitch. Now 2-2. The Cubs are 2 for 16 with the bases loaded here this season.
Pitch to hit right there. That breaking ball stayed up in the zone.
Two to Soriano's outside. Full count. That was a fastball at 90. 3-2 the count.
And I don't think he wanted any part of the strike zone with that fastball. Just trying to get Soriano to chase. Alfonso's overall numbers not good, but he's hitting .424 against lefties.
Marshall with a payoff pitch, and Soriano could not help himself. And a curveball in the dirt and well off the plate inside. 2 outs.
And they just were not going to give in there with Alfonso. And this was the best breaking ball of the sequence. Breaking down and in towards that back foot. Number 4 there on the grid. That's the one he fouled off to the right side. That's the one he'd like to have back.
Sherholtz with 2 outs. He has 2 hits. Even with the strikeouts, Soriano with 2. Rizzo has 3. Cubs are out hitting the Reds 11-7, but trail on the big board by 3 runs. Called strike.
Interesting that Dale's letting Nate have this at bat against the lefty. He's had very few plate appearances against left-handed pitching this year. There's a right-hander ready in the Reds bullpen, so Dale probably figured, well, if I go with Hairston or Ransom in this situation, they're going to counter with the righty. And Sherholtz is in the game. He's hot. He's had a couple of hits today.
A bouncer to the second baseman is Torres, and Sean Marshall gets out of it. Bases loaded, 1 out, and the Cubs do not convert. Here on Comcast Sportsnet. Tune in as ace Jeff Samardzija will head to the hill against left-hander Tony Cingrani. Cap and Holly will kick off the coverage at 11:30 with Papa John's pregame live. JD and I will hit the air at noon. Cubs hosting the Reds tomorrow on Comcast Sportsnet. 5-2 Cincinnati. Cameron Lowe in the 8th.
Cameron 1-1 so far between his time with Seattle and the Cubs with a 7.62 ERA. Home runs have been a big issue. He's allowed 9 home runs in 13 innings of work. Obviously, that's something he'd like to tighten up.
How about a sweatshirt, young man? Is Torres to lead it off. Jack Hanahan is on deck to bat for Marshall. Castro to Rizzo for the out.
The Chicago Cubs strongly encourage the use of public transportation. The CTA Red Line stops directly at Wrigley Field at the Addison Station. For drivers, DeVry University offers remote parking and bus service for $6. Or try riding your bike and use the Cubs courtesy bike check sponsored by World Bicycle Relief. That's located on Waveland near the corner of Clark. For details, visit Cubs.com or call the CTA hotline.
Hanahan to bat. 5 pinch hits. Reds as a team hitting .311 in the pinch.
That's way above average.
Sinker missed low. 1-1 the count. Big Jonathan Broxton will get the 8. With Aroldis Chapman waiting for the 9th. Castro again at short. So the Cubs bats will not see much more of 76 mile an hour curveball the rest of the way.
Here comes the gas. Talked about the Reds hitting three. What was it in the pinch?
.311.
Major league average is 197.
Yeah, they've been really good here the last several years. Chris Heisey had done a good job as a pinch hitter. I say Lance Nix a couple of years. Fly ball to left. Soriano over toward the line. It's going to land fair. Then off the sidewall, it'll rest right up against the wall, and Chu has a double, reaching for the 3rd time in 5 plate appearances.
I said earlier he wouldn't be able to sustain that 460 whatever on base percentage. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he'll be able to do it all year long. It's just been unbelievable the run he has been on. This ball, I think, it fooled Soriano a little bit. We didn't realize Chu had that kind of pop the other way.
The key guy to get here, Cozart, with Votto on deck. Chu has seen his OBP go from 462 to 467 today. think if the All-Star game were tomorrow, he'd have to be the National League's leadoff hitter. That's going to get past Valbuena, and Chu will score, and it's 6-2.
Well, they've had a lot of big 2-out hits. I think 5 of their 6 runs have come home on 2-out hits, and Valbuena not able to get leather on that one. That's a ball you're going to sell out, do everything you can just to knock it down to prevent Chu from scoring. He just couldn't get there.
Solid day for Votto. 2 singles. He's reached 3 times. He's scored twice.
Four of their 6 runs have come home on 2-out hits. There's Big Jonathan. Kind of broad at the shoulder and narrow at the hip. No one ever gave any lip to Big John.
Were you even alive when that song came out?
I don't. Well, I was probably alive. Yeah. Jimmy Dean in the 60s, I think.
Well, they might have to update it for Broxton. He's not that narrow at the,
No,
the waist.
There's not anything narrow about him at all.
Kick and the 2-2 to Votto. Now full 3-2. Three-two of the runner going. Votto draws the walk.
Fourth time he has been on base today. A couple of singles, hit by a pitch last time, now works the walk. This date in 1980. Cub great Fergie Jenkins, then a Ranger, becomes just the 4th pitcher in baseball history to win 100 games in each league. Beat the Orioles 3-2.
One and one.
It's also Ryan Dempster's birthday today.
Off to a very good start with the Red Sox. How old is Ryan? 37?
I believe so. Yeah, well, the Red Sox are 20-8, beating everybody. Pretty nasty right there from Cameron.
Made Ryan a year older than he is, 36. Valbuena will charge, and the inning is over. Reds get a big insurance run, though, now lead by 4 for the second time today. Reds 6, Cubs 2. Cincinnati trying to win for the 7th consecutive time at Wrigley Field. And it's right-hander Jonathan Broxton in for the visitors, facing Wellington Castillo.
So tall order now for the Cub hitters as they try to come back against Broxton. And if they do make a run at him, they'll likely see Chapman. Broxton fastball, slider, and a cut fastball. Mostly power stuff. He's not going to try to trick you. That time he did, and it didn't work out for him.
72 miles an hour. It got away from him, and Castillo is on.
Maybe trying to flip a little get over curveball up there. Normally you don't see that from him. High ERA, a lot of that damage coming in one outing. Gave up 5 or 6 runs in one appearance. At Pittsburgh back on the 14th of April, he allowed 6 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning.
1.69 ERA if you take that one away, which of course you can't.
I wish we could. Pitchers, we always want to. That was Lou Piniella's theory, right? When evaluating a starting pitcher, you throw out his 4 or 5 best ones, his 4 or 5 worst, and the guy that the remaining, that's the guy. That's who you are as a pitcher.
One and one on Valbuena, who has 3 singles. Average has gone up almost 30 points today. There it is. Shallow left. Cozart calling for it. 1 out.
An anniversary of sorts today. Cubs third baseman David Bell made his major league debut for the Indians on this date back in 1995. Making the Bells the second three-generation family in Major League history, with father Buddy and grandfather Gus.
David hit for the cycle in 04. Grandfather Gus had done it. First grandfather-grandson tandem to hit for the cycle. Broxton's 1-0. Called strike. Frazier had to back up, and they will turn it. Didn't think they were going to have a shot once Frazier backed up, but that ball was hit hard, and they go around the horn to end the eighth. Cubs baseball back with you tomorrow on Comcast Sportsnet, 11:30 for the pregame for Game 2. And Kevin Gregg will work the ninth.
He's not had much work in recent days. Pitched just once in the Padres series. That was on Monday. Went to an inning in the third. Picked up his fourth save in that ball game. So he gets the ninth here this afternoon.
Gregg will face Jay Bruce. We got four last names here: Kevin, Gregg, Jay, Bruce. Or four first names.
Xavier Paul's on deck.
Mark Brady in the truck. Two 2-0. That one caught the outside corner.
Gregg works quickly. Control's been a problem for him at times in his career. It has not been the case in this go-around with the Cubs so far. Granted, a small sample, but so far so good for the big righty.
He got him.
I don't think Bruce agreed with the call.
It looked like a strike.
Yeah, on the edge.
Marlins are in Philadelphia tonight. Ricky Nolasco, Jonathan Pettibone. Pettibone coming off first win of his career. Mets are in Atlanta. Sean Markham and Mike Minor, the scheduled starters. So Aramis Ramirez back for the Brewers tonight. Kyle Loesch will start for them. Shelby Miller, the 2.05 ERA, will go for the Cardinals. Always fun when the Dodgers and Giants meet up. Clayton Kershaw and Barry Zito tonight in San Francisco. Paul takes ball 4.
A couple of left-handers with good curveballs, but the similarities pretty much end there. Zito, a finesse guy, now throwing about 83, 84 miles an hour with his fastball, and Kershaw with electric stuff.
Derek Robinson will run for Paul. Kershaw will be coming off the bereavement list to make that start. Barry Zito has had 3 home starts. He's dealt 7 shutout innings in all 3 of those outings. Pop up, Barney with the catch, throw to first, and Robinson, who just came into the game, is doubled off. So we go to the bottom of the 9th. 6-2 Cincy. On base 3 times today, something he's been doing pretty much all season long for the Reds. Get on base.
Well, he is the man that makes the Reds machine go. I guess can't really refer to this version of the Reds as the Red Machine, but he's certainly a catalyst.
So the fireballing Aroldis Chapman is on, even though this is not a safe spot with his team leading by 4. Sick numbers once again.
0.68 ERA, just 5 hits allowed so far in 13 in the third innings, 21 strikeouts. Fastball, slider. He'll throw that fastball 85% of the time or more. Usually sit right around 97. He can get to triple digits and then some.
Former Red Deoner Navarro batting right-handed. Pinch hitting.
We were talking about this the other day with the Cubs renovation plan, the idea of building some batting cages underneath the stands where they can go take some swings off some live arms or a pitching machine or something to get ready for an encounter such as this. Just imagine sitting in that dugout on a cold day like today and going up into the clubhouse, putting a ball on a tee and whacking it into a net, and that's your preparation. The first live pitch you've seen since batting practice hours earlier is this guy throwing 98 miles an hour.
Just got a piece of it. You mentioned their bullpen, and we've seen their best guys. Marshall getting out of the 7th inning, Broxton with a scoreless 8th, and now Chapman here in the 9th. And a base hit. Navarro against his former teammate with a leadoff single.
Done his best work in the pinch. It's pretty impressive to get on top of that pitch from Chapman.
Ladies and gentlemen, number 17, Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle will hit for DeJesus. Pretty good look at the Marshall Wood trade the last couple of days. Travis Wood pitched yesterday, and we've seen Marshall and Chappelle today. Another base hit. Chappelle with a single to right. Cubs had 2 on, nobody out.
Chapman does not appear to have his best fastball today. Well, that one was 97. A couple of the other ones were 94 earlier. I mean, even when he's not at his best, it's still plus. Pretty straight, though, and if you're sitting fastball, you get him timed, you can put a pretty good swing on it.
There was one other player involved in that Reds-Cubs deal back in December of 11, infielder Ronald Torres in the Cubs farm system. 1 strike to Castro.
Chapman starting Castro with a slider there after giving up a couple of base hits.
Another one and a strike call.
Well, as a hitter, you've got to be geared for the fastball. And if he's able to throw his slider over, there's not a whole lot you can do. You're not going to change your approach and look slider off Chapman. You'd have absolutely no chance at all. catch up to his fastball if you're looking for the breaking ball.
.98 that time, but in the dirt. Rocco fortunate to catch that pitch. Two on, nobody out, and a 2-2 to Castro. And he lines into right, and a tying run will come up. 3 consecutive singles to begin the night off Chapman.
I wonder how many times in Chapman's big league career he's allowed 3 consecutive hits.
Just wondered the same thing.
Let's go with not many for sure. Again. Short stroke, poke it the other way.
Well, he had allowed 5 hits in his first 14 games combined and has already given up 3. He's allowed 1 run on the year. It was a solo home run. Justin Ruggiano of the Marlins.
Rizzo had that bat off of him in the series in Cincinnati before we left town, and he had a good, solid, sharp single to right field off a Chapman fastball. It's a pretty impressive swing of the bat.
Bases loaded. Fastball strike.
Three knocks already today for Rizzo.
Cubs have seen Chapman more than any other team, save for the Pirates. They've gotten some looks at him. Here's his 1-1. Pop foul out of play. 1-2. Chapman has been really good against the Cubs. His ERA is about a half a run.
Rizzo has to adopt the same approach here he showed with Marshall. He wanted to punch it somewhere.
Swing and a miss. He got him on a slider. Yeah, the fastball's getting hit today, so he's had to go to that second pitch more often.
Yeah,
1 out.
Yeah, and he made a dandy here. This is a tough pitch. Chance at redemption for Soriano. He struck out in the 7th with the bases loaded.
The pitch is a strike on the outside edge. 98.
Top of the zone, right on the edge. Sometimes you get that call, sometimes not.
4th time he's come to the plate with at least 1 on base. As you mentioned the last time, the bases were loaded and he struck out. That was against Marshall. A fly to right. Bruce, not too deep, makes the catch. Navarro will not try to tag. No reason to chance it here in this spot. Down 4. And Scott Hairston will hit for Scherholz. Hairston with a 2-run homer to give the Cubs the lead yesterday against the Padres. He's homered twice this week. And the wind was blowing in yesterday.
I'm guessing he won't get cheated in this at bat. He's going to take a couple big swings. Disregard that breaking ball. If you get ahead and cheat on a fastball, he might be able to inflict some damage here.
Bases loaded, 2 outs. Chapman's 1-0. Ooh, line foul. Navarro just got out of the way. And fortunately, so did everybody else down in the bullpen.
Good swing. Dropped the head on this fastball, moving down and in on him. Able to clear the front side and hit it hard, but foul.
Pretty quick feet. The 2-1. Outside, 3-1.
That ball back. Unable to steal the call. That fastball clocked at 99 miles an hour. Scott Hairston has homered every 11.3 at bats. That's the second best ratio on the club behind Cody Ransom.
Try to keyhole here. And he takes it for ball 4. Navarro will score at 6-3. And that'll bring up Castillo. The second run allowed all year by Chapman.
I'm not used to getting hit the way the Cubs have hit him here in the 9th inning. 3 consecutive singles. Then he got 2 outs. Big strikeout of Rizzo. Fly ball off the bat of Soriano. That swing Hairston took at that inside fastball, and then when he rifled foul, unnerved him a little bit. Dusty Baker probably didn't think he'd have to sweat this one out, bringing Chapman into this 6-2 ball game.
So now the tying run is at first. The winning run is at the plate. It's Wellington Castillo against Chapman. Reds leading 6-3. Fouled back.
I think it was either Holly or Cap in the pregame show was predicting heroics from Wellington Castillo today.
0 for 3. He's reached once on a hit by pitch. A little flare and a base hit. And now the tying run is in scoring position, as Castillo broke his bat but knocked in 2 in the process. 6-5.
What a spirited effort here by the Cubs in the 9th. Off Aroldis Chapman. You talk about a bat dying a hero. This bat shattered. But it drives in 2 as he gets to the 98-mile-an-hour fastball.
Because of the Pretty strict rules of baseball. Chapman can't get a save. He's created a save spot potentially for somebody else, and we're going to see some late action in their bullpen. That is J.J. Hoover. Check that. Yeah, I believe that's Hoover. Yep. And Cody Ransom will hit for Valbuena.
Yeah, he can turn around a fastball. It would be nice to reward these fans who have stuck around on a cold, rainy day.
Hairston represents now the tying run. He's at second. And the pitch is a strike called 1-1. That's not so sure.
It's a dart to the outside corner, down around the knees. That's a tough pitch. If I were Cody, I wouldn't want that one to be called either, because there's not a whole lot a hitter can do with that. Not this time. That one a little further out.
Ninth inning rally here for the Cubs. 3 2-out runs in the pitch. It's 3-1 on Ransom. Barney on deck.
This is good stuff. Get it ready. This is the time to be aggressive here. Trying to work that outside edge with the fastball. See if he's willing to throw one more over the plate. Put a good swing on it.
It's full 3-2.
Over the heart of the plate, down a little bit. Just couldn't get the head of the bat out in front. It's a little late getting it there. Base runners move with the pitch. Hairston will score on any base hit that leaves the infield.
Runners go on the 3-2. Ball 4. And they are now loaded up again. That'll be it for Chapman. Dusty Baker coming out.
I'm just going to go on the record right here. If the Cubs win this game, that does not mean that we're singing every day.
The Honda call to the pen. We'll negotiate. 6-5 Reds. 16 saves last year at AAA Louisville. He has one career save that came last year with the Reds. Now, Travis Wood is pinch running for Wellington Castillo. That's a winning run at second base. Tying run is at third, and Scott Hairston. The bases are loaded with 2 outs. The Cubs trail by 1. Ninth hitter of the inning.
You ready for that ball in the dirt?
He pitched to Barney. It is a strike on a fastball at 92 miles an hour.
If you believe in the redemptive nature of this game, then here's your man. 0 for 4. He's bounced into 2 double plays today. His outlook could turn around in a hurry with one swing of the bat.
Hoover's 0-1. 1-1. His big league debut a little over a year ago. His 1-1 pitch is hit foul. Cubs down to their final strike now. 1-2.
Travis Wood, who represents the winning run out there at second base, is getting a nice aggressive lead. Good secondary lead too. The Cubs infielders are disregarding him. They're not trying to tighten him up at all. As an infield defender here, you don't want to compromise your positioning to try to hold Wood, but he is the winning run, and it makes sense to kind of sneak in behind him a little bit just to try to tighten him up a little bit so they'd have a shot at throwing him out on a line drive single somewhere. Nice to have a pitcher you can call on to pinch run who's such a good athlete.
The 1-2 pitch swung on and missed, strike 3. And the Reds barely hang on. The Cubs get 3 runs off Chapman, but Hoover comes in and cleans up the mess. He gets the save, and the Reds win it 6-5.
Yeah, boy, what a furious comeback by the Cubs in the ninth to fall just so short. And Barney was the guy. He had such a tough day. Had he been able to deliver there, it would have turned things around. Cubs left some men on base in the late innings, but an impressive run at Chapman just came up a little bit shy.
So for my partner Jim Nishays and our entire crew, Len Casper saying so long from Wrigley Field. The final score, the Reds hang on 6-5. We're back at 11:30 tomorrow for the pregame Reds and Cubs game 2 of this 3-game series. We're not done yet. Blue Cross Blue Shield Cubs post-game live is next.